Hello and welcome to the Nighthawk Racing First Championship. I'm Sarah Hawkins, also known as Sarah Hawkey, and I will be your host this evening and one of your co-commentators for this GT7 based championship. Tonight is the final round, and what a season it's been. I've enjoyed every second of it, and as they say, time really does fly when you're having fun. I'm already looking forward to season 3, but before we get to that, it's my pleasure to announce I am joined again by motorsport enthusiast, racer and co-commentator Midnight ISO.
Thank you very much for the intro, Sarah. And yeah, I can only echo exactly what you said there. It's been a great season so far, and yeah, we're here again at round 8, and let's look forward to some good on-track action for Lobby 2.
Yeah, I can't wait. We'll give the viewers a quick series rundown for anybody that's new and anybody that just wants a quick series rundown for tonight. So we are back better than ever for season 2 of the Nighthawk Racing First Championship. We had an 8 event championship spanning over 16 race sessions in total and 8 weeks. Lots of different car manufacturers on the grid, 28 drivers and some great tracks on the calendar. But tonight we have 3 official time sessions with a reverse grid sprint race up first, followed by qualifying, and then tonight will be treated to an hour-long race around the famous track of LeMans. Okay, Midnight, could you give us a quick overview of the event session format and points scale, please, before we get into the race in action?
Yes, of course, Sarah. So, okay, first up we have a reverse average points scored sprint race at 15 minutes, and it'll be a rolling start as well, a la sort of Le Mans sort of racing round here, so it kind of absolutely goes with the aesthetic round here, which will then swiftly be followed up by a qualifying session at 10 minutes, so drivers will have to be quick to get out of there and set a good couple of laps. Now, the drivers will also have to qualify, if it is dry, on the same tyres that they intend to start the feature race on, which obviously nicely takes us into our final session of the event, which will be a 60-minute race. There is only one mandatory rule regarding the tyres, and that is you must use 2 different compounds, which around here it can rain, so we have to watch out to see if anyone goes to those inters or wets as well. But on to the points. Qualifying itself, there's a couple of little bonus points in there for the top 3. 3 points for first, 2 for second, and 1 for third. The sprint race itself will be 12 points for first, 11 for second, and down 1 point all the way to 12th for a single point. The feature race is somewhat like Grand Prix points, with 25 for a win, 22 for second, 20 for third, and down to 1 point for 14th place. There's a couple of little bonus points in there as well. 1 point in the sprint for the fastest lap if you're inside the top 10, and 2 points for the feature race if you're in the top 10 for that fastest lap as well, Sarah.
Yeah, points across the board, and it will definitely help, obviously, going into the final round. There's a few positions and a few battles to be settled, so every point helps in tonight's race. But before we get into the driver overview, getting to know the drivers on the grid tonight, we have got a few new drivers. But before we get into that, if we just have a quick glance at the championship standings as they stand at the moment, obviously after round 7 going into tonight's round, as you can see across the board, there is quite a few battles that need to be settled today, and it will be interesting to see who comes out on top and where all of the drivers end up in the championship. But obviously some very close racing across the season, which has been a pleasure to see week on. And again, before we get into the driver overview, just a quick reminder of last week's sprint race. We had PMR Lee coming home in first place in the sprint race after his first event back. We then had Sophia in P2 and Deadline in P3. And last week's feature podium, we had Sophia coming home in first place, winning the feature race, with Yvonne in that Beetle in P2, and then again Deadline in P3. Deadline picking up 2 P3 finishes of the night, so well done to him. But I don't know about you, Midnight, I think it's time to go to the driver overview section of the video, and let's go see who we expect on the grid tonight.
Yeah, let's do it. And I have to say, with last week with the races in Spa, that was some great racing, and it's led into this finale. I can't wait to see what's going to happen. And yeah, let's have a rundown of all the drivers.
Yeah, let's get into it. Welcome to the driver overview section of the video, where it's my pleasure to announce who we've got on the grid tonight. So I can't wait to go through the drivers, announcing who will be on the grid and telling you a little bit more about them. But to start off, we're starting with Sharon, and Sharon has done a brilliant job this season in that Ferrari 458, picking up a sprint race podium as well as battling with the other drivers throughout the season. Remember, Sharon is also a Twitch streamer who has streamed the races and practice sessions from her point of view, so make sure to check her out on Twitch, Sharon_Fly. Jump on board with her and go back to experience some of the races from her point of view. Sharon is currently in 19th place on 114 points. Next up we have Lee, and on Lee's first event back he secured a sprint race victory around Spa, dominating the sprint race and proving he's back with a bang in that Porsche 911. Although the Porsche was a difficult car to handle in the rain, but Lee still did remarkably well. Lee is in 21st place with 102 points. Next up we then have Ziggy. Ziggy, although he hasn't been able to race at every round, that hasn't stopped Ziggy from having a very strong qualifying sessions, with a top 3 and a pole position under his belt. Ziggy has also had a feature race podium, and it's good to see how confident Ziggy is when racing amongst the other drivers. Ziggy is in 23rd place with 87 points in total. Next up we then have Koulios. Koulios has had some strong showings throughout the season with a Lobby 1 win and various podium position finishes. It looks like that Subaru BRZ and Koulios has been a very strong pairing this season, and Koulios' consistency has massively improved from season 1, which is good to see. Koulios is currently in 18th place with 122 points. Next up we then have our very own Big Crazy Bertie, our Lobby 2 host and Nighthawk admin team member. He's been doing a phenomenal job throughout the season, both on and off the track, behind the scenes. Although talking about on-track performances, I'm sure he'll definitely be remembering the high speed ring round for a while, and he's had some brilliant races round after round. Bertie is currently in 11th place with 182 points. Next up we have Yvonne, and Yvonne finished P4 and P2 around Spa last week. She had an amazing sprint and feature race and is looking for a similar result again here tonight, I'm sure. I've also heard Yvonne is hoping for rain again here tonight, but will LeMans provide us with a wet race? Don't forget, Yvonne is also the community manager and one of the organisers behind the Inner Esports and Screen to Speed team, so make sure to check them out across all social media platforms and give them a follow. Yvonne is currently in 14th place with 155 points. Next up we have Sophia, and after a successful trip to Spa, Sophia will be looking to have similar results again here tonight. Despite Sophia only being able to do a few rounds this season, she has shown definitely how fast she is. Sophia is currently in 17th place with 141 points. And returning back we have Sophie. This is Sophie's second Nighthawk event. On her first appearance in the series, she was in Lobby 1 and secured a P3 finish in the sprint race. Sophie is back tonight in the Ferrari 458 and looking to get another podium or two. Sophie is currently in 26th place with 30 points. And Sophie is a professional sim racer, driver coach and co-founder of United Sim Team, as well as part of the Inner Esports and Screen to Speed team. Next up we have Late Speed, and Late Speed is back tonight and ready to hit the track in that Lamborghini Huracan. Late Speed's first Nighthawk event saw her secure a sprint race podium and a feature race win. What a way to finish her first event. I'm sure she'll be looking to try and replicate these results again tonight. Late Speed is currently in 25th place with 35 points. And next we have Stephen. Stephen is back for the final event of the season. Stephen was a driver we saw quite frequently in season 1, but unfortunately hasn't been able to race for most of season 2 due to some technical and internet issues. But welcome back, Stephen. I hope you enjoy your first event back, and hopefully we'll see you more in season 3. And Stephen is driving the Mercedes AMG tonight. Next up we have Simon. Simon driving the RX Vision, which he has done all season long. This will be Simon's first competitive race around Le Mans. Simon's improvement has been amazing since the start of the season, where Simon had mere minutes, if not hours, on GT7 gameplay under his belt, to now 8 competitive races completed, and every race that we've seen Simon doing, he's getting more confident, which is really nice to see. Simon is in 22nd place on 92 points. And a new addition to the grid tonight, we have Chris Douglas. Like I say, a new addition to the grid and to the Nighthawk Racing family tonight, and racing in the Ford GT that you can see on the screen now. And I'm sure Chris is looking forward to start the racing action. The Ford GT, as we've seen, can be a difficult car to handle at times, but good luck, Chris. We hope you enjoy your first Nighthawk event, and hopefully we'll see you back for season 3. But that rounds off the Nighthawk Racing grid for Lobby 2, Race 8, the final race of the season. And what a grid we've got again tonight, the biggest grid that we've had in Lobby 2 all season long. I'm excited to get into the comms box alongside Midnight and watch the racing commence. So let's switch back over and see some cars on the grid, shall we?
Yeah, it'll be fun.
Right, so the start of the final sprint race of the season 2, and currently we have Sharon just about to cross the start finish straight and on to lap number 1, followed closely by Lee. Obviously this first couple of corners they're very closely back. There's a late dive bomb by Lee. It just misses the apex, but Sharon gets out in front, although the two are coming together.
Yeah, definite big contact in that first corner, Sarah, and Ziggy's taking the lead.
Yeah, Ziggy saw the opportunity and wasn't waiting around. Obviously a very optimistic move from Lee there.
Someone off in the background, I think that was it was late speed off on the turn 4 straight into the gravel trap, was going again. That was just right across the camera. That was surprising, but that's not what she's going to want this early in the race.
No, obviously you're on your first lap, you just want to get away relatively damage free, you know, keep those tyres fresh. Although it's a slightly shorter sprint in terms of lap numbers, it's definitely not short in terms of kind of racing action.
Ooh.
As we see Sharon missing the first part of the chicane.
Yeah, that was unfortunate. You can take late braking too much of a well, way too late in this one, especially if you're in the slipstream going that little bit extra speed, and it caught caught Sharon out on that one.
But of course we know, obviously from seeing Lobby 1, it's going to be crucial, you know, for a lot of people managing their fuel on in this race especially. Yeah, quite so it's right. It's going to be quite tight towards the end, and you know, I'm sure a lot of drivers will be looking to make sure that they've got enough fuel to take them to the end.
Yeah, quite right. All of our drivers start with 70% fuel in our sprint races, and we know it's going to be extremely tight, and we can see some drivers already slipstreaming their way on the first lap. We've got Sophia, who has been following Lee down the Monzan for lap 1, saving a little bit of fuel, making a dive into the tight hairpin right hand up to P2. Yeah, a lot of drivers, if they've got the higher IQ racers, are definitely going to be slipstreaming and saving fuel. At the moment,
100%.
At the moment, it's good racing from everyone. We've seen very few in the way of incidents. And we've got Mariah, who's caught back up to our Super Simon after the lap 1 excursion. And yeah, I've got to say, so far, very good racing so far. Ziggy out front with Lee making a late move into, I think that was Indianapolis, on Sophia, but not pulling it off. Sophie in the back run, running a little bit wide, but it looks like all drivers are really pushing the limits on this first lap.
I was on board with Kulios at the time, had to take some avoiding action to avoid Sophie, so did go off a little bit wide there, but you know, obviously Kulios managing to get away damage free, which will help, you know, going into the rest of the sprint race, although it sets him back and puts him on the back foot. Damage free is better than, you know, picking up damage because of a collision. But it does mean Stephen does get up to P8, obviously his first race of the season in the last race. But, you know, he's here to, you know, drive that Mercedes as well as he can, and hopefully in season 3 a bit more of a regular driver.
Yeah, well, we can only hope. But what a race to have your first race of the season. Obviously a returning driver in Stephen, but we have a new driver as well in Chris Douglas in the Ford GT, who is currently right behind Koulios, one of our veteran racers from season 1, so doing very well so far.
Yeah, and it looks like all drivers, you know, very close to each other at the moment, which is really good to see.
Simon somewhere has picked up half a second penalty, but we do know around here, we've seen it a couple of times already, is Sophia out in P1, who's gotten up to P1 completely unsighted. Ziggy's fallen back to P3, but now 2-second penalty for Sophia. I was about to say, it's very easy to pick up time penalties around here, and she just proved my point for me.
Yeah, obviously it's very easy indeed. You know, it's almost easier at a track like this where it's quite flat, especially through this kind of section here with the 2 chicanes. If you go that slight bit over the white line, the stewards do like to give you a time penalty, so a lot of drivers are going to have to be careful in the feature race not to lose too much time because of these penalties. But yeah, very easily to pick up.
Exactly that. Sophie in P2 at the moment. Sophie, not Sophia. No, we've got Sophia P1, Sophie P2. Is the only one, so Sophie is the only one of the top. Oh, in the background, a little bit of an incident between Ziggy and I think Sharon. Yes, it was. But yeah, Sophie was like at that point was the only one without a time penalty in the top 5. So yeah, very, very easy to pick up time penalties around here. At the moment, it does look like most are carrying the time penalties, so it's clearly a bit of an issue with the track limits and some of the curbs around here.
Yeah, but it goes back to that thing, like we say, we've said all season long, some of the drivers who haven't been able to practice do use these sprint races as their kind of their time to get into the zone for qualifying and the feature race. So yeah, you know, they can make these mistakes here in the sprint race in order to, you know, to not make the same mistakes in the feature race, which costs them more points.
Yeah, that's not a bad little suggestion, Randy. As you can see, so many of the drivers side by side down the Monzan. Yeah, it's definitely a bit of a track where you need to be figuring out what you want to do, particularly when it comes up to the feature race. At the moment, I don't know where to look. We've got 3 battles going on at the moment. We've got Sharon, Yvonne and Bertie fighting over P4, and then just behind we've got Mariah Lightspeed, who's just taking Koulios into that hairpin, with Ziggy just behind as well. So loads of battles going on. That's Koulios making a move on Lightspeed.
Yeah, managed to stay in the slipstream behind Lightspeed, and then that Subaru, you know, coming into its own, flying past, although they're both carrying time penalties, so both will be getting ready to take their penalties, but obviously they'll be ready to fight again in a few corners time. Oh, it looked like Moran may have clipped the wall a little bit there, but gets away damage free coming out of that hairpin.
That's what I like to hear. So far, I believe the whole field are damage free at the moment, so doing very well. So it's good to see. And out front, we've got Sophia closely followed by Sophie in that 458. So, and Lee in the 911 in P3. So we've seen a lot of good driving so far. Sharon going very wide, but getting away with it coming into the final sector. I think Koulios has ran wide as well, and that's going to present P7 back to Lightspeed, recovering from that first lap track excursion, but making the most of that hurricane. But as we can see, it's definitely very hard on those rear tyres. Koulios, that was ambitious, man. That was very ambitious. But looks like he's given the place back, and again, no damage, so somewhat no harm, no foul, but late speeds are going to be running out of time to catch the drivers in front with that one.
I was going to say, very lucky not to pick up damage there was Koulios, and late speed obviously a bit optimistic going for a move at such high speed into that chicane, but like I say, the main part is that both drivers are damage free, and I believe they'll be going obviously onto lap number 3, so we've only got this lap and next lap in the sprint race, but a lot of drivers still relatively close to each other, and it all helps for slipstream.
Certainly.
But I've got to say, I'm very impressed with the likes of Yvonne, Sharon P4, P5, Lee P3, Sophia and Sophie P1 and P2, doing a remarkable job so far. I mean, across the grid, everyone is doing a phenomenal job so far. We all know that we don't tend to see LeMans being used a lot anymore, but I feel it's a track enriched with history, and it's got in real life as well. It's got a lot of events going on, all of which that as motorsport fans we like having a watch and getting involved in. So it's good to see all the drivers going around at such a historic track.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. Obviously the history around here is synonymous with motorsport, and there's so many famous instances from 787B to many other cars that you can name around here, to name but one. And all I can say is great to see our F1 RSE drivers driving around here in close quarters. It looks like it's meant to be, so
100%. A beautiful track for such beautiful people.
Very nicely put. And at the moment, one thing I'm keeping an eye on, there's 2 battles on track, Yvonne and Sharon, and Ziggy and Koulios. So at the moment, on lap 3, 1 to go after this, given the 15-minute timer. It does look like, I think I just spotted Sharon. No, sorry. Lee has made a mistake somewhere, and he's fallen back towards Yvonne in that little beetle. And it looks like she might be shaping up for a move on him.
Actually, it looks to the outside, looks to the inside, brakes a little bit earlier, stays behind Lee for now.
Yeah, choosing life, as Sid would say. Unfortunately, she's picked up a half-second penalty with a little bit of a track limit there. But she won't be able to serve it this lap. That'll be served next lap as it's too close to the penalty point, I believe. But that should carry on for another lap or so. That's a good little battle for him in there as Lee pulls out. So he breaks a slipstream briefly there.
Yeah, obviously if Yvonne can keep with Lee here and make about a second gap to Lee, that might mean that penalty doesn't affect her race too much.
Yep, and we're at that point of the race as well. We have to start looking at that fuel. We worked out it was roughly between 15 to 18% of fuel a lap. If any driver is under 20%, they're going to be looking at that fuel gauge and just eyeballing it quickly. Lee looks like he's very close to that limit, so we're going to have to be keeping an eye on him for the final lap. Sophia sets a fast lap at a 3-minute 58.7. That is very quick speed at the front.
That is a very fast time indeed, and I'm sure in the feature race for definite, lap on lap, I'm sure we'll see all the drivers across the board trying to set some fastest laps for those extra bonus points.
And we know this will be. Lee has run wide into turn 1. Has gathered it back up. He did that on the previous lap as well. But he's gathered it back up and still ahead of Yvonne at the moment. But yeah, I think you've called that the fastest lap points is something that our drivers will be looking at. And if anyone can replicate that in the feature race, but we're qualifying just coming up. That is putting Sophia in good stead.
I'm sorry to break you from watching this battle, but Stephen has got his wipers on. I'm not sure if he's polishing that windscreen or he's accidentally turned them on, but I don't believe it's raining just yet. He's the only card to have his wipers on, to potentially maybe just helping him see a little bit better.
Well spotted there, Sarah. I have to say I didn't see that one. But, yeah, he's definitely clicked them on and not noticed, I'm afraid. Or he knows something we don't.
Could be that, he sees something on the radar.
Oh, that would be interesting in the last lap of this 15-minute sprint race, wouldn't it?
That would.
Out front, I think Sophia is checked out. She comes out the second chicane. There's Sophie, drifting that 458 through the same chicane. That was intense to go on board with at that time. But Yvonne, I think she's going to have to make that move very, very quick. You can see she's on control for this race because the default map is to put the light flashing on the left analog stick, and when you go around a corner they do tend to flash a lot more. So you can see she's not with her preferred method, but it does look entertaining at very least, Sarah.
It does indeed, and I'm just keeping an eye on the battle between Late Speed and Bertie. Late Speed giving Bertie a little bit of a bump draft to help catch that group just in front of them.
Yeah, and in that hurricane, she's going to be trying to save fuel and trying to pass. It's a tricky proposition.
Yeah, it definitely is. Obviously, the drivers will be wanting to kind of rev the car out to get as much speed as possible, but on the other hand they're trying to make sure they've got enough fuel to get to the end. But as Late Speed goes for that inside line, gets the move done on Bertie, but does pick up a half-second penalty because of that. So potentially both drivers here. They are. Both blue cars are stuck to each other, but both picking up half a second penalty as Mariah has a little bit of a kind of maybe a disconnect potentially, kind of a little turn to the right does put her into the wall. Yeah,
that was unfortunate, and she has picked up a little bit of damage through that, but at least it's the final lap and she won't have too far to go. But as we see Sophia coming into the final section, drifting that RS01. What a sight. Do you know what? And Sophie doing the same. Clearly it's a Sophia thing. Whew. You wouldn't catch me doing that.
Yeah. I've not quite mastered the art of drifting just yet. So these drivers are a lot braver than what I could do. But as we see, Yvonne goes wide. Sharon on the tails of Yvonne. Sharon goes for that inside line, gets the move done on Yvonne, and sets her eyes on Lee. Has Lee run out of fuel? Potentially, I'm not quite sure. Lee slowing down for that double chicane. Sharon taking both apexes beautifully. Sharon going for the move. I think Lee might have run out of fuel. Sharon onto the podium and gets a P3 finish.
That's unfortunate for Lee. One corner left to go. Oh, that is absolutely unfortunate. Well, it's still going off at the back as Late Speed comes out sideways at the final corner. I think she might have run out of fuel. Yeah, and she dropped ninth in that one with Chris Douglas in P10 right on the back. Kulas picking up P8. That all kicked off in the final couple of corners, Sarah.
That did. Like I said, Sharon was flying and spotted Yvonne and Lee having a little bit of trouble with fuel, and definitely took the opportunity that arose and got herself podium.
Yep, Stephen's out as well, and Simon, that's not the track, my man. And unfortunately, cut the chicane and gets a little bit reset on that one, but no, finishes sprint race damage free, which is good going. That is very good going. We're always impressed by him, and he's improved no end since round one. And what can we say about that sprint, Sarah? That definitely all unfolded in the last lap there, didn't it? It
definitely did indeed. And very similar to Lobby 1, and across the season, the drivers always like to give us some action within the kind of the latter stage of the races, especially in the last lap and then the last few corners. But for the first time this season, we've got an all-female sprint podium.
Top 4 as well, so what can you say? Top 4, yeah. What can you say to the ladies on that one? But absolutely well done. And quite frankly, that was great racing, and All genders aside, I think everyone did brilliantly in that one. And there's action right into the end. I feel sorry for Lee running out of fuel, but at very least, hopefully he can remember this race with a smile and know he was on the cusp of on a podium there. And around here, that is no mean feat, but unfortunately, a couple of feet short. But what can you say about the whole field there? That was epic in the last couple of corners.
I can't agree more. Obviously, it's such a difficult track with obviously the fuel. You know, if it's your first time driving around Le Mans, it's quite a difficult track to get right straight away. So yeah, across the board, all drivers doing a remarkable job, and a lot of them, you know, apart from a few, damage-free sprint race, which is good to see. You know, they've improved throughout the season. And yeah, I mean, that was a pretty good sprint race, and I'm excited to see, you know, where the drivers qualify, and I can't wait for the feature race action, which I'm sure, you know, will be treated to 60 minutes of if not, you know, the same as what we've just seen, or if not more entertaining, and maybe potentially some weather.
Yep. That sounds absolutely perfect to me. And I want to give a big shout out to Chris Douglas, who is our first time joiner today, and to Stephen as well for completing his first sprint race back as well. And quite frankly, that is great to see such a large grid for Lobby 2. And yeah, more of that in the feature race if you please. But I think first, Sarah, off to qualifying results.
Yeah, I'm intrigued and I'm interested to see where everyone qualified, and yeah, how the grid forms for our last feature race of the season.
Okay, and now to the qualifying results. On pole in the RS01, we have Sophia with a 3-minute 58.082, an absolutely scintillating lap in that Renault. Next up, we have Late Speed or Mariah in that Huracan in a 4-minute 1.8, closely followed by Yvonne in the Yeetle Beetle in another 4-minute 1.9, so only 1/10 between them. Koulios takes P4 in the BRZ in a 4-minute 4.5. Bertie in the other BRZ in a 4-minute 5. So only half a second between those pair. New to our grid, we have Chris Douglas in the Ford GT, also on a 4-minute 5.1. Only separated by less than half a tenth from Lee in the 911 and a 4-minute 5.1 as well. Stephen on his return to the grid for season 2 in that AMG is on a 4-minute 6.8. In P9 we have Sharon in the lead 4.58 and a 4-minute 7.0, closely followed by Sophie in the other 4.58 on a 4-minute 7.3, so only 2.5 free temps separating those two. Simon in his first Le Mans race, unfortunately not completing a flying lap, and Ziggy also in that Supra, taking P12. Okay, all the drivers are ready to go for the 60 minutes of Le Mans, round 8. Nighthawk Racing F1 RSC Championship. Sophia gets a good start away from the line. Who's on also those medium tyres. The whole pack are bunching up a little bit. We do have Sharon with Bertie on the outside going into turn 1. So far so good. Let's see if they can all make it through turn 2. Little bit of collisions and oh dear, no, that's gone wrong for a couple of them. We see Chris Douglas out on the AstroTurf with Mariah Late Speed as well. I can't see any damage for anyone yet, but we do see a few drivers switching orders there, Sarah.
Yeah, a few drivers, you know, going through that first chicane. As we see Stephen drifting around this part of the course, but yeah, a few drivers going a little bit wide into that first chicane. Obviously, it's a first lap, you know, first corner. These things are bound to happen, but all drivers relatively damage-free and ready for the rest of the lap.
Yeah, I hope so. And Sophia out front has absolutely broken away from the pack, and we're broken that proverbial DRS straight away. But that's exactly what she's going to want around here, as Koulios is making a move on Yvonne for P3. I mean, it's going to be the question right here. Are these drivers going to work together, use some slipstream and a little bit of bump drafting to catch up with Sophia, or are they all just going to go for the raw positions on the track? It's a difficult track to get away from people around here.
It is indeed. Once you're in that slipstream, there's no kind of hiding from the fact that if you stay behind the car in front of you, you're going to gain a lot of speed. And obviously we see a few people bump drafting there, which does help catch the pack in front. So yeah, I think all the drivers up front will be aware of this, and they'll have to make sure to look in their mirrors at all times.
Yep, and I did see Lee with a 1 second penalty as well. That's unfortunate for the first lap. It sometimes can't be helped. Koulos really riding those curbs there. Late speed on the outside of Lee, going for the position in the slipstream of Yvonne. And Yvonne right up the gearbox of Koulos. So these drivers definitely fighting and working together at the same time. It's a weird concept, but it seems to be working so far. They're all following each other through into the hairpin.
As we see Lee diving into that inside line on late speed. Although it does pick up a 1 second penalty, unfortunately. So it does double his penalty, which won't help on the first lap. But again, obviously, once you get rid of that penalty, he'll be ready to catch the pack again, I'm sure. But yeah, I mean, going back to your point there, obviously, they're competitors on the track, but there's a lot of respect amongst the drivers. So, where they can, they'll try and help each other out.
Yeah, it's good to see. There's a fight for P10 between Sharon, Simon and Stephen. Obviously, Stephen off in that first corner incident. Sharon 2, I think. And they're also having a good little battle together as they come up to Indianapolis.
Yeah, it's good to see these three having a little bit of a battle.
And there is points all the way down to 14th in the Lobby 2 grid. Obviously, we've only got 12 drivers today, but everyone is fighting for points and therefore championship positions. Koulos has gotten away from Yvonne just a little and is trying to close down Sophie, who's actually, I think, making quite good inroads into Sophia there. And Sophia on that medium tyre, Sophie on the soft, making the best of it in that 458, followed by Koulos in that BRZ.
Yeah, the drivers on the podium currently, doing a phenomenal job. But I mean, across the field, everyone doing a pretty good job for the first lap around LeMans. A difficult track to master, see, and a kind of a track that likes to dish out those track limit penalties. So a few drivers getting caught out on lap 1, but I'm sure after lap 1 they'll be trying their best not to get as many penalties.
Yeah, Sophia out front attempted to break the slipstream from Sophie, so clearly very aware that Sophie is behind her, and this is going to carry on down the big Lonzan straight in a moment. Koulos and Yvonne into the first chicane. We do know that drivers like Koulos do enjoy these low drag circuits, particularly like High Speed Ring, which he picked up a sprint win in the Lobby 1 actually, which was an absolutely amazing drive. I just want to go back and check that out on YouTube. At the moment, he's got Yvonne for company in that little Yeetle Beetle. Both running very wide. That's going to really push the limits there on those white lines. So hopefully, it looks like they've got away with it. Just perfect measurement there.
Exactly. Using every inch of the track that's possible.
Ziggy up to P7, who actually started P12, so he's definitely made good inroads in there. He's right behind our own big crazy Bertie and sitting in that slipstream. A lot of drivers will be looking to spend a lot of time, because Lee has picked up another half-second penalty, so he's collecting them at the moment. But a lot of drivers will be looking to particularly save a lot of fuel in the slipstream of another driver, especially around this track.
Yeah, as we saw in the sprint race, a few people getting caught out by the fuel usage around this track. So yeah, I think it will play on their minds that they need to factor in fuel if they want to make their pit stops work.
Yeah, quite right. One thing we note from pre-season testing is that RS01, which Sophia is in, is actually very, very good, particularly on fuel. However, is a little bit fast and loose with those rear tyres. So she'll be in good stead if she can keep the car pointed in the right direction and that traction under control. However, sometimes it's an easier task said than done. And our first drop. I'll start that one again. Our driver, who is appearing with us for the first time ever, Chris Douglas, running in P10 at the moment, just behind Sharon and Lee. So doing a good job, particularly in that Ford GT, which is not an easy car.
They're doing a phenomenal job so far. And obviously we hope that he has enjoyed his first ever Nighthawk event.
We can only hope so. It's worth stating on the start of the race, we only have 3 drivers that have gone to the medium tyres, which is Sophia out in front, Lee in that 911, and Stephen in the AMG. So most drivers here on the soft tyre, which, considering it's at Le Mans, you do tend to run out of fuel before you run out of tyres. But if it is a dry race, which it is forecast to be at this moment in time, all drivers do have to use 2 different compounds of tyres. So at the moment, all's fair in love and tyres.
It is, yeah. I think strategy will play a huge part in tonight's race. Obviously, like you say, most drivers will run out of fuel before they run out of tyres. So, different from the other tracks that we've seen across the season, usually it's tyres first. So it'll be interesting to see how the drivers deal with that.
Yeah, it's a completely different challenge for the drivers. It's obviously in the sprint we did see, unfortunately, running out of fuel 2 corners from the end in that sprint. However, that was a great drive from him. Denied him a podium, but he'll be learning from that and looking to go a couple better in the feature race. But it's a long way to go. We're only 8 minutes into this race, just 2 laps, as we do see Chris Douglas on the back of Ziggy, looking to make a move into the final chicanes in the final sector, but thinking better of it this time. Yeah, it's a completely different strategy around here. As you say, Sarah, it's usually the tyres which go, but now it's the fuel. So I like a challenge. Whether the drivers do or not, that's another matter. It looks like Sharon is just about keeping Lee behind her at the moment, but these two are absolutely glued together. It looks like Lee's thinking better of a move into the first chicane. But he is on those medium tyres, so all he really has to do, if he plays it smart, he's just got to sit in that slipstream and just save a bit of fuel. But it's tricky to do in that high revving 911. Obviously, 911 is one of your favourite cars, Sarah. Would that be your choice of car around here by default, or would you be thinking? Would you be thinking one of the other cars?
I mean, I've got to go for the Porsche. It's a familiar friend. I've driven it quite a bit, so yeah, I'd have to go for the Porsche around here. Might not be the best car around here, on top end speed, but I'd have a lot of fun driving it.
I thought you might, as late speed goes up to P4, down the Monza and straight into the first chicane, past Yvonne, who has fallen back a little bit from Koulios at the moment. But again, this is a strategic race. It's not about flat out pace. It's definitely about saving a little bit of fuel as well. Sophia picking up a 1 second penalty out front, which is going to hurt quite badly, I feel. That's a big penalty around here. And Sophia, it gets a bit tricky after a while. But Sophie is barely 2 seconds behind. It might put her right on her back as she sets a purple sector down the Mons End.
Because we all know that although a 1 second penalty, you do lose more than 1 second, so that could really close the gap between first and second place.
I think it will. We'll keep an eye on that one in a minute, as Yvonne is coming back at that Huracan with late speed. But these two, obviously, races in the screen to speed alongside yourself, Sarah. No love lost on track, but again, all friends outside of it.
100%. I know, obviously, these two, they've got a lot of respect for each other amongst the other screen speed drivers as well. So yeah, all doing a phenomenal job.
Sharon up to P8. She's got past Chris Douglas somewhere, and Ziggy. Nope, sorry, actually it was Lee that's got past Sharon. It was, I'm thinking, at the first lap, wasn't I? But yeah, good driving so far from these ladies and these gents. At the moment, I'm keeping an eye on Koulios. He's looking good in P3, but he's only got that little gap between himself and late speed. and it's definitely going to come down to strategy. It looks like that BRZ is definitely using a lot of fuel. Sophia has just served that penalty out front. It's going to put Sophie on her back.
Yeah, as you can see, it's really closed that gap. You know, Sophie back in the slipstream of Sophia, so this could really help Sophie in this next section here if she can kind of stay behind Sophia, as Sophia does run a bit wide there. So again, you know, Sophie looking to capitalise on her mistakes. So yeah, these two, I reckon, you know, next lap we'll be fighting every corner.
This is entertaining though, just seeing Sophia just absolutely chuck that car around. I almost collected the barrier on a couple of occasions. Yeesh. How she manages to get round a corner sometimes and have it pointed in the right direction, I'll never know, but it's entertaining. But I do feel sorry for that 458's rear tyres. They are just starting to cry enough at the end of lap 3, so that I don't think she's going to be too long before she's in the pits. And Kulov picking himself up a half-second penalty as well. That is definitely going to put late speed on his back. And there's definitely another pack forming as well. We've got Lee in 6th, Bertie in 7th, Ziggy in 8th, and Chris Douglas, unfortunately, having a little spin coming out of the final chicane. Currently in P9, is going to do hopefully a little spin turn. Sorry for catching that, mate. But that lets Stephen up into P10 and Chris down into P11. And as we see Sharon, who's already pitting for some front right damage, which around here, aero damage is absolutely crucial, isn't it?
Yeah, any sort of damage is going to slow that car down and reduce the top end speed. So yeah, it's you know, it might have kind of came at the right time, you know, if she was starting to pit shortly anyway. But if not, that could, you know, play a little bit of havoc with her strategy if she's having to pit multiple, you know, more times than what she needed to. But I'm sure, you know, she'll get that damage repaired and get back out on track and catch everyone as soon as she can. But yeah, obviously, like you say, picking up damage around here, it is quite easily done, especially through the corners where the wall is right next to you. It's not very forgiving, so maybe potentially through that section there is where the damage occurred.
I thought I heard a little bit of crunching coming through Indianapolis, but I couldn't work out who it was, so maybe it was around there. But yeah, maybe a bit fortunate it happened there rather than the other side of the track, which would have lost her a lot more time. But around here, this is all top end speed, this track, and there's one thing you can't lose, it's top end speed. So yeah, that aero damage would have been crucial, but as you say, it may play havoc with her strategy. And speaking of havoc, we got Sophie with a half-second penalty and Koulios as well. And I'm keeping an eye on a couple of drivers, Sarah. Are there any out there that you're watching? Because I'm watching Yvonne and at the moment Bertie. Bertie's now just got past. Lee's dropped back somewhere, actually. I'll come back to that one in a sec. But Bertie was just sitting in the slipstream of Lee at the time, and Yvonne is sitting in the slipstream of late speed. Anyone you're watching out there?
I was just on board with our Ziggy. You know, that Ziggy and Bertie battle. Although Bertie does pick up a half-second penalty. But, you know, Ziggy, like you said earlier, doing a phenomenal job, starting P12 up to P7, and is sitting just behind Bertie now.
Yeah, Stevens picked up a 2-second penalty, which he must have cut a chicane somewhere, but he's up to P9, so he's doing alright. Chris Douglas back pointed the right way and chasing down Stephen, so again, doing alright. And Simon, in his first race round LeMans, no damage, doing pretty damn well so far. He was impressive in that sprint as well.
Yeah, and like you say, looking to bring that in for the feature race as well, and doing a phenomenal job so far. So I'm very impressed, and hopefully he's enjoying his first time driving around Le Mans. As we see Bertie taking that penalty, which does allow Ziggy through.
Knowing Bertie is one thing he's going to be doing. He's actually going to be actually quite happy about that, because he'll be able to sit in Ziggy's slipstream and save a bit of fuel. He does like to be the tyre whisperer, and maybe he'll be trying to be the fuel whisperer today. We've got a couple of drivers out there already running virtually on the rims. I just saw Sophia massively cutting the chicane into the final corner there. that looked interesting with that line, I have to say. Whether that's legal or not, that's one for the stewards in GT7, and that would be something to have a look at later on. But in the meantime, Sophie taking an early pit stop at the end of lap 4, definitely suffering with that Ferrari and those rear tyres and the soft tyres. So maybe she'll go to mediums and a much longer stint for stint 2, Sarah.
Potentially, as we see late speed also coming into the pits in that Lamborghini. So yeah, Lamborghini and the Ferrari being kind of using the tyres and the fuel quite heavily, so they're pitting quite early, getting probably, I assume, a full set of tank, a new set of rubber, and ready to hit the track again.
Yeah, I think you're probably right there. The Lambo and the Ferrari shredding those rear tyres, and we've got Stephen in as well. So obviously either unhappy with his tyres or just wanting to fuel up. And at the moment, Sharon has caught up to Simon, who's running with a half-second penalty. But again, he's doing all right in that RX vision, particularly for his first race round here. But Sharon looks like she'll be making the move to get past Simon as soon as she can. Getting a much better run at the final chicane. Simon not going defensive, knowing that Sharon is on those much fresher tyres, and comes out directly behind late speed on a full tank and medium tyres. I thought she might do that, go a little bit longer and hopefully stop less. Good. Unfortunately, just caught the end of Chris having an incident onto the Monzan straight, and unfortunately that's a little bit of damage. You'll probably be at the end of this lap, I'd imagine.
It goes back to what we were saying about picking up damage around kind of the first part of the track. It will slow him down quite a bit, but if you can keep with a pack, if you can keep in the slipstream, it won't hurt his lap time too much. Yeah, unfortunate, a little bit of damage for Chris Douglas there, but it is his first event, and I'm sure he'll be learning from every lap.
Quite right. And I've got to say, keeping an eye, one lady who always impresses me is Yvonne in that little Yeetle Beetle. So far she's not had the greatest of luck in the feature races so far this season, but she does have 2 podiums to her name, clearly looking for a third in the finale of the season. Koulios, however, and he only has 1, but he was on for a really, really good race at, I think it was Interlagos, and he got disconnected. That might have been the sprint now I think about it. But he does actually have a sprint win to his name in Lobby 1, so he's not a slow driver, and it looks like he's looking after that BRZ rather well, but I think he will be in this lap with that fuel usage.
Yeah, it looks like the Subaru, quite a heavy kind of fuel usage car around here. But going back to Koulios, I think, comparing to, season 1, I think Koulios has come a long way. And
when he's not asleep.
As I say, 1, he's doing a lot better, and 2, a lot less rage quits, which, us admin do appreciate, and he's been doing a phenomenal job, always in or around the podium. So well done, Koulios.
He did a good showing last week at Spa as well, which was fun to watch, until he went for, I think, 3 pit stops in about 4 laps. Until then, he was on for potentially a podium or even win. But that's how racing unfolds sometimes.
It does, as I'm on board with light speed. She goes to the inside line, looks to get that move done on Chris Douglas, and she does, which does bring Sharon into the mix as well. Does look into the inside line, but thinks better of it.
Yeah, good, classy little move, a little bit of late braking. Chris with that damage on the front right, which will be slowing him down, and Sharon will be lining up next to take P9 away from him. Out front, we do have Koulios and Yvonne coming into the pits, probably going to go for a full tank at the end of lap 5. We are expecting roughly a 15 lap race around here, so that puts them on course for a nice little 2-stop. And we have Lee and Ziggy in as well, so pits all to the pit stops. With the exception of our own big crazy Bertie, who's going for at least 1 more race, and so is Sophia.
Yeah, and just comparing, Bertie's soft tyres to Sophia's mediums. So you can see Sophia really pushing it, really pushing those medium tyres.
Yeah, definitely. That RS01 does tend to shred rear tyres. It doesn't really help as well when you have a driving style which embraces a little bit of oversteer. It does mean you do tend to like to rotate the car like she does. It works fantastically for a speed, but not great for tyre wear, which in a feature race like this is a bit tricky. You can't really mesh the two together sometimes, which is making it work, which is impressive. And as you say, Bertie, the absolute tyre whisperer, only one chicane behind, and I think he has about the same amount of fuel, so he's doing pretty well, I feel, particularly running in P2, a lot longer than most of the other drivers.
Yeah, it just goes to show, if you can look after your tyres, you can kind of watch everybody else pit, come into pit and hopefully get in some clean air. Although around here, you don't really want to get out in clean air, you want to get out just behind someone so you can get back into that slipstream. So yeah, maybe he's eyeing up a position to pit, come out just behind a few people so that he can again get back into that slipstream, which will help him towards the end of the race.
Very, very possible. We do have Ziggy who's just sitting behind late speed at the moment, so maybe he's doing exactly that. Saving a little bit of fuel. It's good to see our Zigster back in the racing. He had a couple of races off earlier this season due to work scheduling conflicts, and he's gaining, not experience is the wrong word, gaining a little bit, gaining confidence as he's going. I mean, if you have a couple of bad results, you just want a nice good race, and I know he's enjoying himself at the moment. And up with Late Speed, who is a feature race winner in Lobby 2 in our only event race with us so far, that'll be good for his confidence.
Yeah, to be battling Late Speed, I'm sure Ziggy will be, he'll be feeling quite happy. Obviously, wanting to get the move done, but and also probably seeing where Late Speed goes on track, following her lines, following her braking points, so that picking up tips here and there, which again will just go to boost his confidence, and hopefully in season 3 we'll see more of that confidence, and maybe Ziggy on a more regular on the podium.
I think so. I was just keeping an eye on Simon there for a moment. I don't think he's stopped yet, and he's still got nearly a quarter of a tank, unless he's had an early stop somewhere. But if he hasn't stopped yet, that is very impressive that he's still circulating without a pit stop so far. Sophia comes in P1. But we do get, particularly around this circuit, even with the heavy fuel usage, quite a lot of difference in strategy. I don't think Bertie's going to be able to push his luck any further. He's going to have to come in this lap as well because he's just running on fumes. So there's one thing you can't drive around. You can drive around the tyres, but you can't drive around having no fuel as Bertie comes into the pits.
Yeah, as I always say, you can drive on the rims, but you can't drive if you haven't got any fuel. And this track, just going to show that, the tyres, they'll carry on, but the fuel will go very quickly.
Certainly does. I think we might see Sophie just about pick up the race lead for a short time while Sophia is in refueling. We'll wait and see what happens coming across the line. Sophie definitely seeming to enjoy that 458 more with medium tyres. Sophia actually comes out short filled, only about 60% of fuel. I wonder if that was to maintain track position there, because that's an interesting choice there, isn't it?
Yeah, potentially going for on track position. Maybe potentially thinking that she has to pit again anyway. So she's calculating when she next has to pit. But yeah, interesting call from Sophia, and yeah, maybe like say potentially setting up another pit stop in the future.
Yeah, I think so. I don't think anyone's going to be able to go to the end on even on a full tank from here. Maybe next lap they might have been able to, but not at the end of the 6th lap. But anywho, Kyrgios flanked by Yvonne still with that half-second penalty, unfortunately. But these two have been together every lap so far. Not really. Kyrgios not making the break from that little beetle just of yet. And Ziggy still with a late speed as well, dropping back a little bit. May just about still be in the slipstream. That's exactly where he's going to be wanting to be as well. But he's also got a lot more fuel. That should look good for him going forwards. He's only half a straight behind Kyrgios, so podium still on for the top 6, I feel.
Yeah, the top
Sharon,
6 very. Well, yeah, the top 7 being very close to each other out on track, which is really good to see. All the drivers within a few corners of each other, which goes to show how fast and how evenly kind of matched all the drivers are.
Oh, unfortunately Simon has picked up a little bit of damage somewhere, but I do imagine he'll be in this lap. Maybe he is doing that one stop which I said wasn't possible.
He just wanted to prove you wrong.
It wouldn't be the first person this season to do so. Sophia picking up a 2.5 penalty. Clearly playing it fast and loose with those track limits and being bitten by them.
It's a bit of a tricky one around here. Obviously, there's quite a few corners which only have those painted white lines, and if you go too far over those white lines or the curbs, the game isn't very kind in that respect. It does give you a penalty, and it's very easy to do so through some of these corners. Naturally you just want to run the car wide. If you run it too wide, then unfortunately the game gives you a penalty.
Yeah, I will agree with that. They do seem to have some very arbitrary and weird areas to pick up a penalty, in some places that you don't. So it is a bit odd, but you get the same thing on other tracks, particularly like the Nürburgring Grand Prix. We all know that turn 4, I think it is. We can run so wide you're in a different postcode, but it doesn't matter. So it's what happens with track limits. Some are enforced, some are not. At the moment, Ziggy is definitely caught back up to late speed, definitely making the best of those soft tyres and that Supra that he's enjoying at Le Mans.
Yeah,
LeMans, as some people call it.
The good old LeMans. But yeah, I mean, it's good to see Ziggy staying in the slipstream of late speed, and like I say, doing a phenomenal job. Obviously, starting P12. He's got through around half of the grid to get into P6. So yeah, doing a phenomenal job, and let's just hope that he can carry on this for the rest of the race.
I've got a factoid for you, Sarah.
What's your factoid?
LeMans is an artificial fruit. It doesn't exist in nature. It was bred between orange and the citrus fruit. It's man-made.
Uh-huh.
Good little LeMans fact for you. I don't know where I picked it up from, but answer on a postcard if I'm right or wrong.
Yeah, did Midnight mishear the fact, or is it a true fact? Let us know in the comments. But yeah, thank you for that. Normally we give the random award of the day to Kyrgios, but today I'm going to give it to you.
He's not here, so I'm doing it. He's racing.
I'll take that fact, and it might help. If I decide to do a trivia quiz or something like that, I will. If that question ever comes up, I'll thank you.
No problem, that's what I'm here for. Unfortunately, the other fact I've got for is I just watched Stephen pick up a 1 second penalty, jumping over the chicanes. Oh, it's now a 2.5 second penalty. He's collecting them.
Yeah, unfortunately, obviously, it's Stephen's first event back as well. He hasn't really been able to compete in season 2 due to some technical difficulties, but it's good to see him back, finishing the season around Le Mans. But yeah, obviously having a little bit of a difficult time, not a lot of practice underneath on that car, so yeah, it's going to be a bit of a difficult race for Stephen. But P9 is doing a pretty good job so far, and like I said, for some of the other drivers, he's learning as he goes.
3 seconds. Yeah, but as you say, it's his first race back after what is effectively 2 to 2.5 months off, and it's not a bad showing. As long as he keeps going, he's actually keeping up with Big Crazy Bertie pretty damn well, I think. So, at the moment, I've just seen Ziggy's fallen back from late speed quite considerably. I think he's had a spin coming out of the second chicane, and Lee's got back past him. So these two are going to have to try and work together to try and catch late speed in that Huracan who has just disappeared. But at the moment, Ziggy is the one with the fuel advantages. Unfortunately, as he runs wide twice, just about gets away with it over that gravel. Unfortunately, particularly around courses like this, if you lose that groove, you miss a braking point, you would typically do it again at the next braking point as well. So he's got to settle down and just find that groove again and refocus.
100%. Couldn't agree more. You know, when you accidentally do miss a breaking point or you do miss an apex, it does kind of affect your mentality a little bit. Obviously, you want to drive as good and as perfectly as you can, but that doesn't always happen. So you know, that's normal for drivers, you know, to miss a breaking point here and there. But like you say, narrowly avoiding the gravel, I'm sure, you know, out of those couple of mistakes, that's what Ziggy will take away, that he didn't end up in the gravel, and he still got damage. He still got no damage, and got a lot of tyre left and a lot of fuel, so that he can go and catch Lee and late speed again.
I think you're exactly right there, Sarah. I've been keeping an eye on a lot of the drivers, and it looks like most of them have in fact used different compounds already, so that rule for the feature race is already satisfied, although I'm still not entirely sure if Simon has pitted or not. But at the moment, actually with the exception of, I think, Ziggy has gone soft so far, but he doesn't seem to be wearing the tyres very, very highly on that Supra rather, so he's doing pretty well. Just needs to find that groove. So at the moment, the only real battle that we've got on track is Koulios on those medium tyres in the BRZ, with Yvonne on also the medium tyres in the Yeetle Beetle. It does look like Yvonne doesn't have any problem staying with that BRZ, just maybe getting the pass affected is where it's a little bit lacking at the moment. As we can see, late speed in the distance just closing in a little bit and stalking these two.
Yeah, she'll be keeping a close eye out on in front, you know, Koulios and Yvonne, to see if she can capitalise on these two battling. But yeah, you know, as Yvonne gets closer and closer to Koulios, we could see a little bit of a battle towards the end of the race for that final step on the podium.
Well, we shall have to wait and see. Just having a quick look at the championship at the moment, we do have the top driver in this lobby at the moment is actually Big Crazy Bertie, who's sitting on P10 at 182 points, which I think he'll secure P9 or P10 depending on what the results for Lobby 1 are. So he's doing okay, he's doing alright in P8 at the moment. He's going to get a good handful of points, but at the moment Sophia, who's running in P1, will definitely be adding a lot of points to her total of 141, particularly after that sprint earlier on, and is definitely going to be jumping up the order from P17. So a lot riding on the results of this race here.
Yeah, obviously the final race of the season as well. There's quite a few, you know, championship position battles going across the field. So, you know, drivers getting you know, some bonus points will help. Fastest lap will help. Trying to get as many points as you can will help to secure a higher position in the driver standings. And I'm sure, you know, although they're racing, that will play in their mind a little bit. You know, if they know they want to beat a certain driver, they'll be doing all that they can to make it happen.
Quite agree. It was good to see a lot of the drivers all relatively close together. You do get a little bit of spacing out around this track, but we got no driver who's been lapped, no driver that is massively off the pace or anything like that. We're seeing just battles slowly unfold, given the nature of the track.
And I just spotted on board with Stephen again. I'm not sure if he's trying to, foreshadow some rain, or he's accidentally pressed it again. Those wipers are switched on again.
Yeah, that's just like the sprint as well. So it's either he's seeing something we're not, or he needs to look at the mapping of his control as he absolutely lights up the rear tyres coming out the second chicane. He was very lucky not to pick up a penalty there, actually, going right on top of that white line. I've got to say, a lot of the cars do look great going around here. Just looking at the 458 and sharing at the moment, it just looks right going round down LeMans and LeMans, doesn't it?
Yeah, all the drivers, all the cars, all the drivers, they seem quite at home at LeMans, which is good to see.
And it wouldn't be a Le Mans race without a 4GT. We had Ripon de Terre in Lobby 1, and we've got Chris Douglas in Lobby 2. As Sophie in P2 is in...
Ford versus Ferrari.
It is a little bit. That's a movie I still need to see. Need to get to that. But
yes, you need to watch it.
It's one of those, you see lots of clips of it on TikTok and YouTube all the time, but never watched it all the way through. So Sophie in P2, hitting with 5% fuel, clearly needed another drink of fuel for that Ferrari. It's going to allow that Ford a little bit closer.
Yeah, and also, lets Sophia extend that gap to Sophie as well. But it does bring in the mix Koulias and Yvonne, for the podium. Because I'm sure, Sophia, as soon as she comes out of the pits, she'll be looking to reclaim that podium position.
I think you're right. I wonder if she's going to go for a full tank here and try and go to the end. It's going to be close now, starting lap 10. It should be only another 5 laps or so. She's going for a full tank. I think she's going to try it, Okay, that's going to be interesting. She's on. Oh, I think Ziggy's had another spin. Just caught the end of the yellow flag in Sector 1 and coming slowly into the end of Sector 1. So I think he's had a little whoopsie over the top of the curb, which is easily done, particularly around here with those off-camber curves. It can so easily upset the balance of the car, and then you're unfortunately going sideways or backwards.
Yeah, very unfortunate. It's very easily done, and the curbs, at any racetrack, especially Le Mans, it does unsettle the car. If you take on that too much curb, it does like to kind of keep you in a straight line. It's almost like aquaplaning, but with no rain.
Yeah, particularly if you get on top of those curves. I think it was right on the under the bodywork, the chassis, as it were. Then yeah, it's just like surfing, isn't it? And the wheels don't turn when they're in the air.
No, and it makes it very hard to kind of predict where the car is going. So I can fully, appreciate the struggle of a little spin coming out of quite a curvy section. At
least it's not quite as bad as a couple of races previous with that Dragon Trail chicane, which we all know is called the death chicane for a reason. But the curbs around here are not insignificant, and I do particularly remember Mac complaining about the curbing and the AstroTurf in Season 1 at Spa. So curbs around here, it's not too far from Spa, but curbs around here definitely have a relation to the Spa variety, and yeah, you have to be treating them with respect. Although every time I see Sophia, she's definitely abusing those curbs. Each to their own driver style, isn't it?
Yeah, some drivers like to take on and drive. Will take a lot of curb on some of the sections. Some of the drivers deciding not to. It's whatever suits your driving style, and obviously, if you're confident enough to take a little bit of curbing, sometimes it does help pick up that little bit more speed.
Whoa.
As we see, Sophia going very wide through that section there, but manages to hold on to it.
Yeah, that was a penalty. But I have to say, the pace in this lobby, particularly from Sophia and Sophie, is right on that of what Lobby 1 were achieving as well. So it is great to see the ladies attacking the course and doing well and doing themselves proud.
Well, I believe that lap that Sophia's just set was faster than Lobby 1. Obviously, Lobby 1 we did see a little bit of weather at the start, which did peter off a few laps in. But yeah, I think she set a faster lap time than the drivers in Lobby 1.
Definitely faster than me, but I was going to say it's not difficult around here, but you can try as much as you want. And Koulios comes in, and so does Yvonne for that pit stop as well. But yeah, if you have the skill around here, you do. It's as simple as that, and definitely proving their worth tonight. Late speed in as well, top 4 in, top 5 in, Lee following them as well. It's like they're all top 5 are in the pits at the same time. That's brilliant.
Yeah, they want to get out at the same time, they want that slipstream. So whenever they spotted the car in front pitting, they're like, oh, I'll pit as well. I'll keep with this pack.
That's interesting. I'm pretty sure I saw Koulios not change his tyres. So he's opting to save time by not changing his tyres and just refuel. That is... that's an interesting one, Sarah.
That's brave, definitely brave, but the time you spend in the pits anyway, it's in the duration you spend, it's not gonna waste you too much time changing onto a different set, so that might hurt him a little bit towards the end of the race.
You can definitely see some drivers barely getting anywhere on those tyres at all. Big Crazy Bertie, who's used at least half a tank, there's barely any tyre wear at all. So Koulios, who's done a whole stint, hasn't changed them as well. Interesting tactics, not something we've seen in the whole series so far, is it?
No, although we did see Koulios doing it in Spa last week, deciding not to change his tyres, but that did mean that he did have to pit quite a few times with the frequent weather changes.
True, actually, that's a fair point.
So yeah, Koulios, I'd say at this point he's a bit of a fan of not taking on a fresh set of rubber and just keep going on the rubber that he's got and taking on some fuel. Sometimes it works, but sometimes it, like I say, it's better just to pick up just that fresh set of tyres that he's got more confidence that it's got the life and the grip underneath. Quite
possibly. It's well, you say I like my random strategies. Koulios certainly takes a biscuit on some of them, doesn't he?
He definitely does.
Well, Simon has finally pitted, I can confirm, by the way.
It potentially, might make that one-stop strategy work and definitely be proving you wrong.
Well, again, I wouldn't be the first person that would prove me wrong this season. And I do like this simple but elegant livery for Chris as well, who's got the Garfield on top, which I completely missed the first time. So
we both panned that at the exact same time.
Yeah.
Like, that caught our attention at the same time. And we just thought we had to have a look at that Garfield and see Chris Douglas coming out of the pits. I don't know about you, but the track has gone very dark all of a sudden. Very misty as well, kind of overcast.
Could be a little sting in the tail yet from the weather. Interesting. Could well be. We did see some in Lobby 1, and LeMans is definitely known for it. It wouldn't be the first time, would it?
No, and obviously we all know what the British weather's like, and LeMans, in northern France, it's not too far away for the British weather to kind of affect the weather around this track. So yeah, like we say, potentially the last remaining laps we might see some dramatic weather changes, although at the moment it looks just a little bit of overcast, a little bit cloudy, but no rain at the moment.
And one thing we do know is we've both seen the movie Gran Turismo. It does feature heavily this circuit in that particular film. Obviously Ford versus Ferrari as well, this iconic track. And obviously it's our good, and most importantly of all, it's our season finale for season 2, which has so far been quite entertaining, and it's been a pleasure being a part of it on the commentary side as well as the driver side as well. So far I'm absolutely pleased with how this has gone, and it's great to see the battles which are still going on, particularly between Kulius and Yvonne since lap 1.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Le Mans is enriched with history, and another one to add to the history books. The Nighthawk Racing crew going around for the season finale, and doing a phenomenal job.
Battle for 6th as well. We got Late Speed followed by Lee. Late Speed running wide in that final sector, and it looks like Lee has gone to those soft tyres, definitely pressuring for 6th place, and looks very, very confident on those brakes. Of course, tricky section coming onto the pit straight. It's so easy just to light the tyres up and have a little spin coming out of the final corner, particularly in front of those pit stands. It's the last place you probably want to spin, actually, but it's also very, very easy to do. It does look like Late Speed are not particularly comfortable in that Huracan at this event. It definitely has the speed, but it definitely doesn't look like she's feeling it at the moment. But some tracks and some cars just don't go very well together. Obviously, she was very, very happy at Watkins Glen with a great performance, with a podium in the sprint and a feature win. But not today at Le Mans, but still having a good battle with the 911 of Lee in P7.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. The Lamborghini is a very difficult car, both from fuel, both tyres, driving wise as well. It's very unpredictable in some parts of the track. So Late Speed having a little bit more of a challenge on her hands compared to the other cars. But yeah, she's doing a phenomenal job, and although, like you say, picking up another track limit, which suggests a few kind of areas of the track that she's struggling with. But yeah, like I say, I think if I was driving as well, I'd be picking up quite a few penalties through some of the sections with the track limits. So it doesn't surprise me, drivers picking up those half-second penalties.
I don't know about you, Sarah, but I didn't see that. Kudos has had a little excursion off the track somewhere and picked up some front aero damage. That is going to ruin his chance of P4 today.
Yeah,
or a podium even, because Bertie's still going to have to pit again. That's unfortunate for Kulios.
Yeah, I didn't quite see that. I was on board with you, so you might have just been able to see that in the distance. But yeah, unfortunately, just getting some aero damage, like we alluded to earlier, with believe it, a few other drivers getting some damage as well. It really does affect your top end speed, so that could see Kulios losing a few positions, and potentially a little bit more than a few positions if he's having to pit again to repair that damage.
Well, at very least he can pit for some soft tyres, repair the damage, add a splash of fuel and go for the fastest lap to make up the difference in points lost, hopefully. But that said, Lee's not too far behind, has got past Late Speed into the hairpin at the end of the circuit. So maybe Kulios might elect to try and stay in the slipstream of Yvonne and negate some of that time loss with just a little bit of slipstream. But he looks like he is falling back. Those worn medium tyres not giving him the grip that he would want compared to fresh soft tyres from that little Beetle.
Yeah, like we say, maybe not the best decision ever to stay out on those worn set of mediums by Kulios, but he'll learn, and next season he'll take all the kind of learning experiences to hand, and to make some different strategy calls in some of the races that we'll do next season. But unfortunately, those worn tyres potentially being maybe one of the reasons why he did have that off-track excursion. But
he's staying out.
Decides to stay out. Surprising, especially around this track with so many straights. He's going to lose quite a bit of time with that front aero damage, and Yeah, as you can see, obviously the gap towards Yvonne already that's got quite big. So it wouldn't surprise me if we see Lee and Late Speed getting on the back of Kyrgios towards the end of the race.
It is also worthy of note that Lee did a 4-minute 1-second lap, which, not to my annoyance, is faster than what I managed in lobby 1, but more for Kyrgios' annoyance, is 3 seconds a lap faster than him after that damage. So Lee is going to be zeroing in on him. And again, it is the reason why I bring up my lap compared to Lee's on this one. It is absolutely worth showing that lobby 2 is just as quick and full of action as lobby 1. So unfortunately, if the lobbies were bigger, we'd have all in one lobby, which would be probably carnage, Sarah, but it would be absolutely great fun to watch. But for the meantime, we do get the pleasure of watching lobby 1 and lobby 2, so we get 2 races and a lot of fun going on in it so far.
Yeah, could not agree more, and couldn't have said it better myself. If we had all the drivers in one grid, it'd be proper kind of like BTCC style. All drivers going for it. Bit of chaos, but sometimes that's what you need in racing. But yeah, obviously, I think all of the drivers across the both lobbies are remarkably fast. Got a lot of skill, and I've been impressed with and excited to see them driving at every track, and every second that I see them on track doing a good job, it makes me proud. And like I say, I'm happy for all the drivers. You've seen some of the drivers, for example, Simon improving race on race, so it's good to see people's confidence levels boosting throughout the season.
Yeah, I've got to say, should we do a run up of the drivers from Simon upwards? Just go through their season accolades so far.
Yeah, why not?
Well, in which case I'll start with Simon. Unfortunately, no podiums or wins for his name again, but he's improved absolutely massively, particularly from the first moment. And the old quote we've been using all season is, he doesn't have hundreds of hours on the game, he has but tens, if that. So improved massively, and he's still on the lead lap. I mean, it's a long lap, but time-wise, he is not that far behind Sophia, who is one of our quicker drivers as well. So Simon, I think, doing brilliantly so far. And we've got a new driver today, as we've mentioned, Chris Douglas, and in that 4GT, a tricky car, doing well. I hope to see him more in the coming seasons. And Stephen, a returning driver, first time of this season, does seem to be collecting a few of the old time penalties, but again, that is a bit what wrestlers would call a little bit of ring rust. It will go away after a few more races, and he'll be back up to his normal speed, but still doing well so far, particularly in that AMG. And Sharon, to me, has been one of the highlights of the season. Unfortunately, no podiums or feature wins this season, but has been particularly good in the sprints. So it is great to see her in that 458, and has definitely done herself proud in a lot of races. Bertie, he will, for season 3, I've already heard from him, he wants all the races to be high speed ring, because let's face it, he dominated there, Sarah, in lobby 2 earlier in the season with a sprint win and a feature win, didn't he?
He did. I remember that last lap battle. Definitely one for the highlight reels.
Completely. And we've got our Ziggy, who is gaining confidence as he goes, running a P7 at the moment, and he did qualify on pole for Dragon Trail a few weeks ago, so he's still got that raw speed, and he's just working on that consistency. But P7, nothing to be particularly worried about, and he'll definitely be trying to move forward from there. And the pace is particularly good, actually, 4:01.9 on the previous lap, so he's still got it. And I think he's our oldest driver in the field, but again, showing some of the young drivers exactly what to do. And otherwise, we've got another newish starter for us with Late Speed Mariah, and had a feature win at Watkins Glen earlier in the season, running in P6 just behind Lee, and I think doing very well in a very tricky car. I mean, I don't know how you feel about that Huracan, Sarah, but I wouldn't want to be driving it.
No, it's a very difficult car to handle, and but she's handling it phenomenally. That's a very hard word to say quickly, but yeah, you know, I think if Late Speed was able to do a few more rounds, unfortunately couldn't do a few of the rounds because of other commitments, I think, you know, she would have been quite high up in the championship, especially after that, you know, that feature race win back at Watkins Glen. But hopefully, you know, a little bit more a regular driver for season 3.
Yep. And if anyone hasn't seen that last lap, which I won't ruin for you, but that last lap ending in a win for Watkins Glen at Watkins Glen for Late Speed was something of the ages, and it was a good battle between herself and Deadline, and ripping to tearing as well at a couple of points. So moving on to Lee. It's good to have him back with us. Missed a couple of rounds this season, but again, he's doing himself proud, and an aspiring touring car racer. All I can say is he's doing himself proud at here in Le Mans, and a track that I have no doubt he'd want to be racing. And he's actually chasing down Koulias at the moment, so I think he's going to get him before the race is out. There's only another lap or so to go, with only 2.5 minutes, so one more lap to go after this. And we'll start moving on fairly quickly so we can watch and enjoy the final lap. Koulias himself, who's dealing with a little bit of damage in that BRZ, but again had a very good showing, particularly in Lobby 1 at the High Speed Ring Reverse with that sprint win, and completely took us all off guard, and even had the pole position as well. So he's clearly got the speed and doing very well this evening. P4, but being chased down by Lee. Yvonne has definitely done well, especially in that U2 Beetle, obviously on a non-preferred method of control, on the controller, on the pads rather than the wheel, so getting some outstanding results so far, particularly given the circumstances. And Sophie actually deputised for Yvonne on one race. I think it was race 3, might have been Deep Forest or the one before, but again has done herself very, very proud, and might be joining us for more races next season, but already definitely feeling like she's, you know, deserves to be here. Unfortunately running a little bit wide in the final corner, but getting away with it. And Sophia has had a spin somewhere, I feel, because she's got rear end damage, but still in P1 somewhere. She lost a bunch of time, I think on lap 11, lost about 30 seconds, possibly. There might have been the pit stop though. So somewhere she's had a little trip into the barrier, possibly through the Porsche curve somewhere, but Sophia definitely very, very quick, and will be wanting to be hosting, if anything, Lobby 1 next season, and trying to educate a lot of the Lobby 1 drivers as to where she wants to be. But at the moment, Sarah, final lap, here we go.
Yes, and just on board with Lee, he is eyeing up a move on Koulias. Obviously Koulias again dealing with that damage. Lee goes on to the outside line into the first chicane, carrying quite a bit of speed. We'll look to stay on the inside line, which will be the outside line. Oh, no, stay. Koulias looking for that switchback, but does get very wiggly coming out of that chicane there.
Yeah, he's definitely pressurising Lee, trying to keep with him, as Lee does run a little bit wide, but gets away with it. Koulias is going to have to stay with Lee, otherwise he's going to be under threat from Late Speed as well, who is only a few seconds behind. But yeah, Lee getting the position up to P4, and he's going to be dragging Koulias with him, who I do fear won't be able to fight back. But if Koulias can keep with Lee, that will at least keep him P5.
Yeah, and I think he'll be happy with, you know, P5 after some damage, although Late Speed, I think I didn't realise how close she was to Koulias, so she'll be looking to take that P5 off of Koulias, and no doubt in the next lap.
Yeah, do you know what? I might take that back. She's a lot closer than I thought she was. She's only a corner behind with about 3/4 of a lap to go. Koulias unfortunately lost the slipstream from Lee as well. He's going to be vulnerable. I think out front we're going to have Super Simon, who's going to be one of the first person to finish. We actually got Sharon and Stephen already finished who have just crossed the line after the 1 hour counter, and Chris Douglas will be the other one as well. But we're going to have no lap drivers in this race, it would look like at the moment. But at the moment, all eyes are going to be on Koulios and late speed. So we'll keep an eye on that. If you want to stay with late speed, Sarah, we'll keep an eye on that as I have a look to see what's going on with the rest of the field as well.
Of course I can.
But Sophia looks like she is going to be coming around, not lapping anyone today, which will be so she always likes to do, see where she can get up the field. But not here at Le Mans. Super Simon looks like he's got the grip to hopefully stay. Oh, he's actually getting blue flags, and he's letting Sophia through, so showing a lot of maturity there. But that is nothing to be sniffed at, particularly around this track. It took Sophia a whole hour to catch Super Simon, so nice one on that. But it does look like Sophia's going to take the win. Sophie P2, Yvonne P3. Lee coming through.
No, it's going to be very close between these two drivers here. Though late speed, look at the fuel of late speed. Will she make it round?
That's the question, sir. I really can't give you the answer on that one at the moment. At the moment, late speed is going for P5 against Koulios, and it's anyone's question at the moment. Last lap, is she going to make it to the line? But out front, we do have Sophia, who has taken the win off camera. And Sophie, is she slowing down? Or is she doing a formation finish with Yvonne?
Yeah, it would be nice to see, the two UST and screen speed girls finishing across the line together. A nice little photo finish.
That is beautiful to see. Great camaraderie and absolutely beautiful racing here in the F1 RSC finale. And there's so much to talk about, Sarah. Track limits, driver of the day. What do you think?
Yes, unlike some of the drivers in Lobby 1, a few drivers in Lobby 2 getting saved by the bell. But yeah, it was a good race all in all, and nice to see, another all-girl podium. Yeah, I think it's the first time this season that we've seen two double podiums, all female. So
yeah, beautiful to see, and what a race to do it at Le Mans. Such a challenging track, and it's been thoroughly interesting throughout, I feel. Yeah,
and like I say, Le Mans is a very difficult track to get right and to get into the groove of. So I'm very impressed with all the drivers across the board, and I think they should be proud of themselves as well, because that was quite a good race.
Yeah, I feel that was a good race, and each and every driver out there. We've got some really good standout performances in there. I mean, quite frankly, I think everyone has done well, and driver of the day is going to be quite a challenge for us, to be brutally honest. But all I can say is well done to each and every single driver out there. Sophia taking the win today and the fastest lap. But what can I say? Great drives from Sophie, Yvonne, even Lee in P4. Absolutely respectable. Kudos, late speed. Beautiful to see them there in P5, P6.
Oh, yeah, it's a little bit of a tricky one. No.
Well, for me, I think I'm going to have to go with Sophia on this one. A sprint win and a pole position, and as well as both fastest laps and the feature win. So that is a clean sweep, a grand slam. So I can really only give a lot of praise in there. But great drives from, again, so many of the drivers. What's your thoughts?
Oh, I'm going to say Sophie for a... Sophia as well. Yeah. No, so Sophia finishing P1 in both races. Sophie finishing P2 in both races. So I think it's got to be, for me personally, it's got to be one of them, if not both. All the drivers across the board doing a phenomenal job, and definitely, all of the drivers could be a worthy driver of the day for driving such a difficult but historic track. But similar to you, I've got to give it to Sophia and Sophie for locking out P1 and P2 across both events. But like I said earlier, proud of all the drivers across the grid.
Yeah, exactly that. Well, I think this leads us into what we're going to say. Season 3, it's been worked on now, and we're looking to both expand any drivers who are welcome into the family, and quite frankly, we're aiming to be bigger and better next season. We're not just saying that; we are genuinely aiming to do things better, more consistent, and for all of our drivers and for everyone watching and being entertained by this. But all I can say is Season 1 was good, Season 2 was even better, and it's been great to see. Despite a load of frills and spills at some points, everyone has pretty much come away smiling, and it's been, I think, a really good season with a decent finale at the end. And definitely a couple of highlights through the season, but I think my favourite all season was going to be probably Spa, because that was entertaining for me.
Yeah, Spa was a very fun race to watch, and I'm sure a very fun race to drive as well. It was very difficult, but yeah, I mean, I think both LeMans and Spa, both historic tracks, both tracks that I think we all like driving. We don't get to drive LeMans quite as much as Spa, so it was good to have it as our season finale. But looking into the future for season 3. I'm excited already. I'm excited to see the cars out on track. It's almost like a win, a little bit of a winter break when you miss the F1. You miss the cars going around the track. So I'm gonna miss that, but we'll be back better than ever. And it goes without saying, if anyone watching wants to get involved, please do let us know. It'd be our pleasure to have more cars on the grid, and more cars to commentate on. But it's been a pleasure to watch all the drivers across the lobbies racing and battling out across the season.
Exactly that. And I do urge anyone who's watching and who's enjoyed this show and this season, go back and check out particularly, I think, Watkins Glen for Lobby 2. Actually, to be fair, High Speed Ring Lobby 2, Watkins Glen Lobby 2, and the other one, which would have been Deep Forest, which were all absolutely amazing, and a privilege to be part of the commentary team for, and to host all this season. And it's been nothing but a pleasure to be a part of. So yeah, on to season 3, and please come and join us. Come and comment in the YouTube bar below, and give us a thumbs up. And come check us out on TikTok, Instagram, and wherever we are, which we're in a lot of places now, Sarah. But it's been a pleasure. In season 3, let's get on with it. Let's move on to that.
Exactly that. But before we get into season 3, let's go and hear from some of our podium drivers from tonight.
Perfect. In which case, I'm going to say thank you very much, Sarah. It's been a pleasure. And yeah, that's Le Mans round 8 out the way.
Yeah, thank you for having me, and like I say, it's been a pleasure to commentate across both lobbies this season, and I look forward to what season 3 will bring. But it's a good night from me, or good morning wherever you're watching, whenever you're watching this. But we'll see you for season 3.
I'm a little sad I missed so many races and chances to bond with those on track, but appreciate the ones I was able to take advantage of. Glad to be a part of the series somewhat. AMD hope to be more regular for season 3 to come. Congrats to everyone, and here's to another great season as well as future ones to come.
I was looking forward to this race and it didn't disappoint. The sprint race went as well as could be expected. Starting near the back, I had fun making my way through the field. I tried my best to catch Sophia, but it was too little too late as it took me too long to get through the field. Qualifying turned into a disaster as I tried to help my teammate Yvonne get a good lap time, but in the process I ruined my own. I knew a win was going to be difficult as I was starting 10th and Sofia was starting on pole. Luckily the Ferrari is awesome at the standing starts and I made up many places. I messed up my strategy by pitting a lap too early in my first stint meant I had to fuel save in my final stint and I lost sight of Sofia, so I settled to bring the car home in P2. Would like to thank the organizers for putting on the event and hope to be around for season 3.
Hello, Ivona Houfla here again. Yes, Le Mans with a Beetle on a controller. It was a struggle. The sprint race, I needed to save almost a lap of fuel to make it to the end. So I started in engine mode 4. And yeah, I just did some bump drafting, lifting, coasting. Yeah, to just make it to the end. And in the end, Lee got out of fuel. Sharon was close by, and yeah, I ended up P4. But it was great to see an old ladies podium for the first time this season. So that was great. And then the future race, I knew my pace wasn't the best. So I knew, well, top 3 will be very difficult, maybe 4 or 5 will be the goal. I always hope for more, of course, but realistically, that was more in there. So I just kept my lap times consistent, kept me out of trouble. I only had one penalty for a track cut because I had much more grip with the tires, and it just turned so well. Could save a bit of fuel. And hold my pace. Did some bump drafting, of course, and save a bit more because of that. And then suddenly, the last pit stop, I was coming into the pit lane at P4 and behind P3 with I think 2 seconds, and then suddenly we came out and it was 10 seconds behind. So I lost a lot of time, and I thought, that's strange because I filled up and changed tires, but just enough to make it to the end with a bit of saving. So I knew he couldn't have enough fuel. So I gained back all the time very quickly, and I finished P3, which was amazing. So I'm very happy with my results because I didn't expect it at all because I simply don't have the pace. And yeah, I was very happy. So I want to thank Sophie because she gave me some boot camps because I was really off pace, which was really shocking in the beginning of the week. And yeah, I want to thank the organizations because this was the last race of the season, and it was a great season, great drivers, great organization, and I'm looking forward to the next one, and I hope to see you all there. Thank you. Ciao, ciao.